What's up, Internet? So welcome back to the Xenoblade Chronicles 2 Blade Showcase, and today we're finally going to look at Elma. Elma, a character from Xenoblade Chronicles X, and I hope the fans of that game are very satisfied with the way they turned out, and if you haven't seen her already, she is a fantastic blade in her own right. The cool thing about Elma is that she brings a unique overdrive mechanic. She brings the flavor of Xenoblade Chronicles X into this game, but made it more streamlined for newer players to get sort of an appetite for that game if ever they were interested in playing it. Elma's very good, you guys, and she also does very nicely in chain attack. While it's not her own unique gimmick, because of the fact that she hits so many times with her specials, and each of those many little hits do substantial amounts of damage, you're going to be seeing a really nice return if you're the kind of person to just stack up all of your chain builds with burst symbols, and honestly she's just very effective for pretty much every single playstyle. She has great AoE, amazing single target damage, and just many different ways of playing. So, going over to the blade herself, you'll immediately notice her dark elements. Just by virtue of being this element, she will be immune to the effects of Doom, and she will be able to build a level 3 dark combo to prevent the enemy from summoning the reinforcements. This is very useful, particularly when you're fighting against the Revenge of Cloud Sea King Ken, and really it's just very good to have overall as a safety measure to keep the battle as predictable as possible. Going into her weapon, she benefits the most, particularly from the Tachyon chip, which increases your critical damage by 25%. It's the exact same effects as with Pandoria, Fiora, and the Great Axe movesets, and honestly, she does reach high critical rates very frequently due to her passives and her base critical rate of 34%. Not to mention that if you put her in the same team as Fiora, you're going to be critting the majority of the time. Now, quickly going into the passives, of course, the real star of the show here is Overdrive. We're going to be using it for today's demonstration. I know I did say that she's really good for chain attacks, but I kind of want to show off what this is. Not to mention the music is really fun, but Overdrive is a really fun alternative to what we're used to doing in this game. In terms of sheer damage output, it's not necessarily the most optimal way of doing things, but if you just care about mashing away at buttons and mashing away at all your different arts, this is a really cool way to look at it. So the thing about Overdrive is that you originally start off with a 20% break resist reduction to your target, and then 50% reduced art recharges, and 25% additive damage. Now, according to another YouTuber by the name of NL, he actually explains that when it comes to the additive damages, it's not quite as obvious as you would find it. Supposedly, the count that you'll have when you activate Overdrive, once you reach the count of 200, you're going to match the 120% damage that Dagas has for his Kaiser Zone, and then when all's said and done, the damage at maximum charges, so that's going to be at 1000 counts, you're going to have 500% extra damage. It's quite nice, particularly for players that are new or starting off in their progression in the post-game, kind of to help them reach this point of power, and otherwise though, it is just something that you'll want to do, mostly just for the fun of it. That being said though, I do look forward to seeing what the player base in general can do with this one. As it stands right now though, it might not necessarily reach that level, but again, it's all about that creative approach, and that's exactly what we're doing here. Not to mention that you do get some nice break resist reduction, so that's always helpful to have if you're interested in fusion combos, and then the reduced art recharges is really cool because it does stack with pouch items, so it's just a very fast-paced, exciting play style. Now, the next one is going to be Crisis Catalyst. This is pretty much what every offensive blade wants to have, but unfortunately can't have because Elma has it. So, in this scenario, you're just going to have more damage, more critical rate, and max affinity. You're going to be crit healing almost all the time, and most of our driver arts are going to hit for 6 digits. Usually per hit. Very good stuff. Finally, there is background noise. This increases your damage from the back. Unfortunately, because of the way Elma is, she actually can take the aggro off the tank very reliably. That can be a little unfortunate, but if you're playing around with driver combos, you could just sneak around the target while they're toppled or while they're launched, and you'll get the bonus damage like that. It is something you may wish to do, but the majority of the time you might not necessarily make use of it. However, this does in fact factor in when you're doing chain attacks. If you initiate a chain attack when you're behind an enemy, then you're going to get that extra 150%. It's just really, really useful to have overall. Speaking of chain attacks, she is one of the best blades out there when it comes to using specials because of how many times it hits. The first one is going to be Sliding Slinger, and this is going to increase your damage to higher leveled enemies in the same way that the Challenger mod for Poppy QT Pie would have. It's a very, very nice one, and it works really nicely in conjunction with a level 2 special. As you can see, the level 2 special just hits many times, all little hits culminating in one big hit at the end, and it also hits for a nice radius directly in front of Elma. If you can kind of get everyone in a large crowd in front of you, you're going to do massive damage to all those people. So the cool thing about this is that something that NL actually pointed out to me was that if you do Sliding Slinger during a chain attack, and then you go to the next stage, you're going to be in a perfect position to get the bonus damage from behind. So that is a really, really cool thing to point out, and that's just one of the many reasons why she's so good at chain attack setups. And then finally, there's going to be Violent Streak. Violent Streak, I really like how this attack looks. Essentially, you're going to be hitting many times an AoE all around Elma. This is really cool if you're playing challenge mode, and if you're able to build up your specials as quickly as possible. And honestly, just because of how cool it looks, it's just really, really fun to use. Unfortunately, it does take a little bit of time to charge up due to being a level 3 special. The majority of the time, I would personally just spam away with level 2s because you build up so many overdrives. One thing that I like to mention about overdrives is that you can increase the stacks by doing your driver arts and your specials for yourself or for your party members. When you do driver arts, the count goes up by 1. But if you use a special, each of your charges per hit will go up by 5. This is really good, especially for Elma, since she hits so many times. So you will likely see, like, maybe 100 stacks per special at most of the time. And that's exactly what we want to do. Now, going over to the Aux cores, we're going to max out her damage as best we can, affinity max attack, and outdoor attack up for fairly obvious reasons. You want as much damage as you can, and you're going to get it. You're going to get it really, really nicely for today's demonstration. I cannot wait to show you guys. And then finally, Night Vision. Night Vision is really cool because, yeah, most of the challenges tend to stretch on until dark when you're doing the final bosses. And the thing is, though, she does rely on that quite nicely because, again, whenever you land a hit, you're going to get those stacks, but if it misses, you won't get any of your stacks for Overdrive, so you want to make sure you can do that. Not to mention that it's very important that you'll land all your driver arts so that does not affect your overall DPS. So yeah, it pretty much does it for the Aux cores. Going to the driver, I like having Elma on Rex because he has the access to a topple if you want to play around with the fusion combos, and he has the Trick Shot. Trick Shot's really, really fun to use. If you're behind someone and you cancel your auto attack into a trick shot, you're probably going to do 400,000 damage twice. It's just really, really fun to use. Dark Edge has a very similar effect where you just increase damage from the back. Feel free to switch this on out with Mystic Slice if you prefer attacking from the side. I personally prefer Dark Edge since it does kind of stack with the passive background noises. And then finally, there is Shadow Twist. It gives you some AoE and a very small evasion frame. It might not seem like much, but if you time it properly, you're going to be invincible for very dangerous attacks, such as Wild Wave or an Ultra Annihilation Flare, and that's something I like to have personally. Not to mention that also you're trying to kind of stall around for your crit heals if you're ever in a clutch situation, so that's kind of the reason why I decide to keep it. Otherwise, though, it's all a judgment call for you guys. Going to the accessories, we're going to quickly go through all 3 characters in our party. I've given Rex the Avant-Garde Medal because you're going to be critting the majority of the time. Crimson Headbands, because again, more crit damage is always a good thing, especially with someone like Elma. And then the Noise Dampener. Once you start going into Overdrive, your arts are going to recharge very, very rapidly, and you want to cancel them as much as you can, and that's exactly what we're trying to do here. We want to build up to our level 2s, so we might as well get some extra damage along the way. So, going to the other party members is going to be Morag. I've given her Patroka because I want the extra elemental weakness damage because the boss that we're fighting against is guaranteed weak to darkness, which is what Elma is. And also I've given Shulk because the vision mechanic is just very, very useful defensively speaking, and he is a good source of topple for Morag. The accessories that I've given her are going to be the Fighter Circlet because she has no dark elements on her team, team, so we can't make her immune to Doom. I'd rather focus on attacking than play Cleric. And then Avant-Garde Metals, so that she can live and heal off any damage. Both these two things have an emphasis on keeping her alive, and this swimsuit definitely keeps me alive, so that's why we're going to equip that. Now, going over to Tora, again, here's the Poppy QT Pie. Quickly steal this build if you need to. Pretty simple stuff, we have been using this for quite some time. And the accessories in question are going to be a Master Scope for more break, and then Optical Headband for more critical damage, and then finally the Tachyon Scarf to extend the break duration, because we do tend to rely on the AI a little bit for getting the topples, and maybe if I want to switch over to Mithra to kind of fish for topples myself, that's something I definitely want to do. Otherwise though, more break, you can feel free to switch this out for anything else, like more damage or a burst symbol. It's really up to you guys. Now, before I go into the demonstration, just want to quickly look at the pouch items. Clicky Clacks, I really do like the Clicky Clacks because it increases your specials, and since you are going to be in Overdrive, it should only take 2 canceled specials, or sorry, 2 canceled driver arts to give yourself the full effect. Very, very good. And of course the Narsopar Jelly, just to make things even faster, since it does in fact stack with Overdrive. But yeah, that should pretty much about do it. So what we're going to do is we're going to quickly cut the video, and I'll take you guys to the demonstration. So in my mind, reinventing the Gogol is the perfect place to showcase what Elma is capable of. This is mainly just due to the fact that we're going to be swarmed by a bunch of apes, and that's going to show off just how good her AoE is, and her single target damage like you saw just now. I'm going to quickly start cancelling away with all my abilities. I want to make sure that I have a level 2 wall set up, and then when that happens, I'm going to wait for these guys to line up, and then hopefully Elma should catch them all at the same time. Okay, so we unfortunately had to miss 2 of them. That being said though, Elma has amazing single target damage as it is. Just make sure you land your cancels accordingly. And you know what? We might as well also do a level 1. Perfect. Okay, so that took a little bit more than 30 seconds. Absolutely fine. This next part, it's a little important that you get your positioning right and start bursting down people as soon as they come, because if they knock you back and you get surrounded, you're probably going to end up fainting, and that's something you definitely don't want. Most of the time, you just want to kind of step cancel all of your auto attacks to make sure that you can have your arts as soon as they become available, since the cooldowns reset in between the waves. You know what, let's see if I can go for a level 3 right now, if I can. Here we go. Level 3, it's really nice because it hits everyone, and it's very, very useful for clearing out the waves. So as you can see over here, everyone's got some hit in some capacity. Again, try to cancel out. I think this guy's a little bit more healthy, so I'm going to use the trick shot on him. And that should do it. Okay, this next wave is going to be a Wolfmaster surrounded by a bunch of Wolves, so I want to make sure I can camp this out a little bit, and hopefully I could land a level 2 that'll hit everyone. Level 2 is like my favorite combo on this particular blade, mainly just because there's so much potential for just clearing out waves instantly. So let's see if we can do that right now. Here we go. Okay, so that wolf on the right got out of it, but since he's just the one guy, it shouldn't be that difficult. Just cancel this out, and that should be insta-kill. Right, now we're down to the second last wave, right before Carlos shows up. So this is going to be the Rogol Master, and he has substantially more health than everyone else, so we might end up doing a level 3 to also take care of the aerial foes. So here we go, just quickly cancel. Okay, let's see. You know what? Let's not do the level 3. We're going to line it up properly. Hopefully Elma can follow suit. Okay. Alright, so that Rogol was a little bit out of the way. But again, it's just the one guy that's left over. Sure, why not? Use the vision. I'm not too concerned about wasting any visions for this particular challenge, just because we already do have the Shadow Twist AoE evasion attack, and also the fact that when you're in Overdrive, you do get some pretty nice damage anyways. So we're pretty safe overall, I find. Okay, so when this fight begins, I like to sort of let the rest of my party members do the aggro for a little bit, so that I can get myself in a good position. I'm going to immediately activate the Overdrive, start off with a back attack, and then cancel that with a trick shot for as much damage as possible. Oh, and he's behind us too. Okay, so this guy's launched up. I want to quickly get that bonus damage, hitting all that. Thanks to the launch, it's going to hit to 50k. And one thing I also want to point out is that whenever you refresh your Overdrive, you can actually cancel that out with your Trick Shot. So if you want to get some extra damage or just builds up some additional attacks or additional specials, then that's exactly what you can do. Unfortunately, the Feral Beat kicked in, so we are going to lose the party gauge. Thankfully, Elma doesn't even need Omega Drive to build up specials really quickly. So here we go. Again, we're going to be spamming this attack the majority of the time because it's just so reliable, and also we want to get as many stacks as we can as soon as possible. Okay, so I guess cancel this, and then right when you activate, you can go straight into another special, and you just do this indefinitely. So, I noticed that Morag hasn't switched into Shulk yet. That's absolutely fine. Any more opportunities that we have are good for us. And this is going to be another full meter. The more stats you have, I believe the slower the countdown is going to be, but we don't have to worry about that at all. Okay, here comes the topple. There's some extra damage. So yeah, remember, every hit that Elma does, it counts as 5 stacks. And we're getting plenty of fusion combos right now too, so that's cool. Gonna get some cat damage every single time. See if we can get us some more breaks. Okay, so now, I predicted a wild wave is gonna happen, and I do not want to be anywhere around that when that happens. As soon as I see it, I'm just gonna start mashing away on the Shadow Twist for that invincibility. There we go. Easy. And then just like that, we can just quickly build up our meter again. So that's the funny thing about Overdrive, is that you have all these little opportunities to sort of keep the momentum in your favor, and I really like that. It's a very, very different playstyle from what we're used to of just constantly spamming away with our chain attacks. Okay, just quickly recharge this again. And then again, you can cancel that into a Trick Shot if you time it properly. And as you can see, because we have Patroka on our team, we're going to do substantially more damage. So do we see our break yet? So we get that topple. So yeah, we're hitting so much at this point. Like, we're approaching Telos levels of power. Although I cannot wait to try experimenting with Telos with an Overdrive. I think that's going to be very, very exciting. So again, here we go. Here's the launch, so that's going to be some nice damage. You can't see it very well, but that's like 90,000 per hit. And just like that, we are done in less than 6 minutes. I think this is the fastest I've ever done. Obviously, this would be much, much faster if you're using the chain attack, but still, like, less than 6 minutes is nothing to sneeze at, especially when you consider you've never used any chain attacks for the entire challenge. Really, really good stuff. But that's why Elma is so fun. While her Overdrive mechanic might not necessarily be the quote-unquote most optimal damage, the fact of the matter is, like, at the end of the day, we try to have fun with these games, and this is just a whole new fun thing to do. Like I said, it retains the flavors of Xenoblade Chronicles X, which is good news for people like me who've never played that game. It really gives us a taste for it, and honestly, that's the most valuable thing. To my knowledge, I have heard from a friend of mine that the Overdrive in this game is much more streamlined and requires much less resource management, and honestly, I think that's very, very valuable to me. It's a nice way for us new fans to become more acquainted with just more of these older games and help us to kind of develop an appreciation for them. And honestly, that's the most valuable thing about Xenoblade Chronicles 2 and the DLCs we've been getting. There's so much fan service, but it goes more than just swimsuit costumes. Sometimes it just means showing us the blast from the past so that old fans can have nostalgia and us new fans could look forward to potential ports or, as I would like to hope for, a new sequel to Xenoblade Chronicles 2 for the Switch. But who knows? There's plenty of things on the horizon. And speaking of the future, there is going to be Golden Country coming out in a couple of weeks from the time of recording, so I really look forward to seeing you guys for that one. Not to mention that the good folks at the Xenoblade Chronicles 2 Reddits, or the subreddits, have been very gracious to reach out to me, so we're going to be looking at hopefully, some advanced tactics and mechanics for those of you guys that have been playing this game for a year now. Plenty of stuff on the horizon for Xenoblade still, and honestly, wouldn't have it any other way. Anyways, guys, thank you very, very much for watching the Elma showcase. I always had fun with these ones. This might end up being the last showcase, at least of this format, but it's been a really, really fun ride, you guys, and I appreciate you guys for joining me every step of the way. So until then, see you guys next time.